Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of College and Career Coffee Chats with Delicia. I'm your host, Delicia Larcon, your resident hype tia, or your fellowship fairy godmother. However you would like to describe me as, I'm here for you. This is another episode of interviews and guest speakers coming in to chat with me about being a first generation, how to navigate imposter syndrome, how to navigate the world today in the work environment, the application process, the undergraduate admissions, and the graduate admissions process. We're here together to chat about it, to peel back the layers, to peel back the curtain behind what happens in higher education, to really provide the skills and the tools necessary to succeed in whatever that goal is for you. So make sure you have your coffee, your energy drink, or tea, whatever you want to listen in on this conversation between my guests, my colleagues, and my friends. And make sure you stay tuned so you can get access to all the free goodies and the gifts that I have created for you as it relates to training, about scholarships, about resume writing, about cover letter, anything that you need in the process. I've created some gifts for you so you can download those instantly and have access to the workbooks and the trainings. And stay tuned if you would like to join the Facebook group and the community to connect with everyone. So without further ado, let's listen in on our guests and our conversations. Cheers. All right. Hello, everyone who is listening. I want to welcome a very important and fun guest, Cesar Quezada. We are here with the College and Career Coffee Chat podcast, YouTube video, and we met through Facebook group First Gen Professionals. And this idea flourished because I wanted to connect with other professionals so they can tell their stories as to what is happening in real time for students to learn, not only from my experiences in higher education, but from their experiences as well. So Cesar is here, and I'm gonna give a little background as to who he is so you all know what he's all about, what we're gonna talk about, and hopefully you can ask questions at the end, and we will get back to you if you have any follow-ups as to what we're going to talk about today. So he is a coordinator for the Multicultural Center at the University of North Texas and a student in the Masters of Education program. He is a first-generation college student and DACA recipient, a dreamer who graduated from Texas A&M University Commerce in May of 2019. Cesar Quezada is a coordinator for the Multicultural Center at the University of North Texas and a student in the Masters of Education program right now. So he's going to talk about that today, hopefully. And he currently serves as the Vice President for UNETE, the Latino Faculty and Staff Alliance on UNT's campus. He also serves as Vice President of Membership for the Texas Association of Chicanos in Higher Education, DACHE State Board, and was previously a regional co-representative. So as you can see, Cesar has so many great experiences, and I want to highlight, if you can see here, his t-shirt, we are all dreamers, and defend DACA, which is something so important that we have to talk about in today's political climate. Election is coming up, and just as the fabric of immigration in this country, right? So I want Cesar to talk about today. He's going to hit on a couple of themes. We're going to talk about higher education, how to navigate college as a first generation student, how does DACA and Dreamer status affect you as a student, and then later as a young professional. And then we're going to connect a little bit about mental health and what that looks like in the higher education college years and community, but also now as young professionals and as a male Latino. So those are kind of the big theme topics we're going to talk about. I hope you will stay tuned to listen. So now I'm going to stop talking because I want Cesar to be the main person speaking. He is going to share his story with us today because I think it's important to spread his story and his experiences. So Cesar, take it away.
Oh, well, thank you, Delicia, for having me today. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here speaking to you all. Well, yeah, like you said, I am a first generation student, DACA mentored professional now. So a lot of different views and perspectives that I want to talk to you about. especially for those students that are struggling and going through all this difficult time, and especially the political climate that we're going through. I think it's important for them to have somebody to look up to, or for somebody to help them out, be able to navigate what is higher education. Because at the end of the day, whether you're documented, whether you're a full citizen, whether you're undocumented student, if you're a first generation student, we're all going to face the same struggles at the end of the day. So like you mentioned, I graduated from A&M Commerce in 2019. Right after then, I started working as an admissions counselor for Tarleton State University in the Waco area. And then after a few months in Tarleton, I transitioned over to UNT, and I am now the coordinator for the Multicultural Center down here. There's been a lot of initiatives, a lot of programmings that we've been doing, but one of the most important things since I've got here that we've done is called Latin Dreams. That's a Latino male mentorship program. So we have about 15 students right now that are mentees and 2 mentors for them, and we just take them through a bunch of different topics. I mean, we've done mental health programming, we've done resume workshops, we've done alcohol and drug abuse awareness trainings for them to just be able to get acclimated to the university and feel like they're at home, feel like they have a sense of community within our group, and just honestly have them see somebody at a staff level at the university that they can count on. Because for me, whenever I was going through A&M Commerce, there were very few individuals that looked like me at a staff level, very few people that I could connect with. So me being there, it's a huge help for them. And then I'm able to connect them to the rest of our Latino and Latinx, Hispanic staff and faculty on campus, especially being now the newly appointed vice president for the faculty and staff group. So just everything has shaped to where it's getting me now, and just being able to work with my DACA students, undocumented students, with our first generation students on campus, doing undocu-ally trainings on campus. All of this, I think it's huge to evolve in our community, especially in our university, since we have just become a Hispanic serving institution. We need to have those resources for them. We can't just be bringing in the students and not having those resources, those talks for them. We need to be able to provide what they need and what they're coming for, seeking at UNT. So that's a little bit about what I do.
I love that. And we forgot to cheers at the beginning. So this is a coffee chat because I love coffee, but everyone can bring their tea, coffee, energy drink, whatever they want in this chat. So if you see us like drinking or hear some slurping, that's what's happening. Because the goal for this is to be an informal, organic chat between 2 professionals helping kids in college and high school students moving to college. So going back to docu-ally and training on campus, how important do you think it is for students coming in as a first-year student, sophomore, and high school students who are being recruited maybe to go to university, to physically see a Latino person on campus, like that representation and that visibility? How has that shaped your undergrad experience, your master's level experience, and now your professional experience?
I think honestly, that's what's gonna make or break your instance or your stay at the university. If you come in, let's say orientation, and you don't see anybody that looks like you, you're at even if there are people at those levels that look like you, but if you don't see them being engaged, being around orientation, talking to you, seeking out to give you that information, if you don't see them, you're gonna create that I guess thought of, oh well, there's nobody on campus, so you're not gonna want to reach out to anybody. You're not gonna want to try to look for resources because, oh, orientation, I didn't see anybody, so there must not be anybody. So you'll close yourself off to that, and it happens a lot, I think, especially for our Latino males. We have seen the retention rates drop drastically because they don't see people that look like them. They don't see any other males in higher education. There's very few Latino males, well, I guess males overall in the higher education field.
That is true.
So not seeing a Latino male in there, it gives them a little bit more fear, because they can open up to a guy, to a male, about different stuff that they would be able to, or that they feel more comfortable to, than they would a female staff or faculty member. So
Mm-hmm.
not seeing that on campus closes them off. And again, I think we go back to I guess history and however we were raised. Males aren't supposed to ask for help. Males are thought to be the machos in the family, be the ones that they take care of everything at home. So they feel weak if they go out reaching for help. So that's another thing that just is detrimental for them, because the help's out there. There's people that are always going to be willing to help you. If you don't seek out that help, if you don't look for it, it's never going to get to you. So I think having somebody right from the first day that you get to campus, seeing that there's another guy that's made it, I think it's huge for them, because that'll just drag them through to you. And I mean, you can just whatever, little by little, obviously, opening them up with them, trying to talk to about different experiences, different programming. For example, the mentorship program that we have, just being able to connect them to other guys, it's huge for them. And honestly, it'll make it or break it at the university level. And obviously for females, it's the same way. I know females, though, are a little bit more capable, let's say that, of going and reaching out for help. They don't feel that, I guess, type of weaknesses or feel like they're being less than if they go out for help. What they're there for, they know what they're there for, which is get their education. So they're going to do whatever it is that they can in order to get that. So that's why we've seen that difference between retention and graduation rates between our Latino and Latina male, females and males.
Absolutely. I think you hit such an important topic to deconstruct. Maybe we can spend some time chatting about what it means to be, right, a Latino man or a Latino woman, and how we show up differently in higher education spaces, especially for first gen. We first may not know how to even navigate this system, so we're against that obstacle. And then we're against maybe cultural nuances and new gender roles that we're accustomed to seeing at home. And then we get to college and you're like, wait a minute, this is so different. There's so many things happening at the same time. And you're in fight or flight mode, and then you retreat, and that really affects retention. So as a higher ed professional, I saw that a lot in Black men and Latino students. And I would spend so much time trying to connect them with other staff members. There was few on campus that they were not in my department, right, as academic counselor, but they were in maybe other departments like in IT, or they were the dean or other like professors. So I'd try to make that connection, or else they would really struggle to see that support system. Even though I was there for them as their counselor, like you just mentioned, it's so different to have those different gender role understanding of what it means to grow up Latino or Black in the US, right? So I think that's so important. And then number two, how do we continue to deconstruct that it's okay to ask for help for both men and women, right? And that talks a lot about mental health, right? And I think on Friday or Saturday was Mental Health Awareness Day. And I saw a lot of great posts about that. But how do we continually have that conversation every single day to make sure people know that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to ask for help? And who do you do that? Who do you ask for help? Who do you go to ask for help? So what have been some strategies you learned through your lived experiences and being in this space in higher ed now as a professional to navigate that, not only for yourself, but like for the support for students?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, I can be an example for those students. Whenever I was going to my undergrad, I struggled asking for help. I didn't know much. Again, I'm a first generation student going into this. All my goal was just to make it to the university. That was it. Like, I didn't know how or how I was going to do it, or how I was going to go through those 4 or 5 years of classes and graduating. So I never really asked for help until there was just this one time where I literally was about to drop out and needed somebody. I had a mentor with my mentorship program down there at A&M Commerce, and that helped me see that if there's somebody there to help you or somebody to guide you is super helpful. And I think also now being a staff member or working with students, you have to start with yourself. I always talked about mental health whenever I was vice president of the Mentorship Program at A&M Commerce. I've did presentations on mental health and how to change that aspect on our Latino males, but I wasn't doing it on my own. I wasn't taking care of my own mental health. I wasn't taking care of myself in that manner. So whenever I got into this position, which is mostly working with students in the student affairs area, division and equity division down here at UNT, made me understand that in order for me to help them, I needed to help myself first. So I ended up doing helping my mental health. I ended up getting a counselor for myself. And now I'm able to get my students to either open up a little bit more or just even share my experiences with them, for them to see that you can be vulnerable, you can be a man, and you can be all of these other social norms that they put as their social tags that they put on men for going into mental health or counselors or whatever the case may be. You can be you are a male, you can go ask for help, you can be there. You need to take care of that first. And it's been huge for them. Like I said, I think we've done a few mental health trainings at the beginning of the semester, and then we have a couple more coming before the end of the semester. So just being able to connect with them like that. But I think definitely as a staff member, it starts with yourself. Because if you're not able to help yourself, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to help others go through their struggles.
Absolutely. That goes back to Yala Vanzar. I don't know if people follow her, but she says you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to have your cup runneth over, and whatever is runneth over, right, is to give out to the community and to your family. And I think that's a really hard lesson and a really hard learning experience to be able to put ourselves first, help ourselves first in mental health capacity, health, and like physical health and emotional well-being, and then realize that that gives us the strength to then go help our community and be better allies and be better family members in our larger like ecosystem, right? With our Latino community, we're very stereotypically close to our immediate family, and then to our larger family. If we're talking about, like, my family's from Paraguay, so my family in Paraguay, and wherever other people's family members are. So that's a really good tool to learn early on in higher ed and in undergrad. So you build those tools with therapy, with support systems, and you build your own like toolbox so that you can navigate the world moving forward. So that's a great nugget that Cesar has shared with us about. He said, in order to help them, I have to help myself. So tweet if you like to tweet, friends. That's a great Cesar Quezada quote right now. And before we go to the next topic, I want Cesar to define DACA and Dreamer in your own words and on your own terms, because we see a lot of terms floating around the internet and people want to appropriate maybe the terms and take hostage of what it means. But I like to give this space, this digital space, for actual DACA and Dreamers to speak their truth and what that means to them. So if you could share with us what that means to you and how you define it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for me, Dreamers is not just those that have DACA or deferred action, which is formally called. Dreamers are those that are here, whether it be legally or illegally, whether they have a DACA or they're on DACA or they're citizens, whatever the case may be. It's just that term started back in the early 2000s, whenever our Hispanics and Latinos started getting into college a little bit more, and there were not as many resources. There was going to be a bill called the DREAM Act that was established back then. So I think that just took that term of Dreamers and stuck it into basically our Hispanic and Latino community. Since DACA came out, a lot of DACA or most of the DACA recipients are Dreamers. So I think those two terms have always been connected because of that. But there are two separate different things. So for DACA, it's obviously any undocumented individual that got here that was able to receive this aid whenever President Obama was in place. So it's been hard to manage that. I mean, it's something that you have to renew every 2 years. Well, now every year. with the new regulations. It's a lot of money that you have to put into it to renew it, and it's honestly it's a blessing and a curse, I guess we could call it. It's great because you're able to work and you're able to provide some type of income and be here legally working or going to school. But at the end of the day, it's a curse because all that money that you're trying to do or trying to get to pay for college, which 78% of dreamers are in college or have graduated from a program already. We're spending it every year, every 2 years, and trying to renew our program, our DACA. I mean, it's not cheap to renew it, especially for a college student. We're barely making it by with paying tuition, fees, housing, all of that good stuff. And then on top of that, adding another $2,000 almost with legal fees and stuff like that. Every 2 years. Well, I guess now it's going to be every year. So adding another $2,000 every year, it's difficult. But like I said, it's a blessing and a curse. We take it as a blessing because we're here. We're able to continue our dreams. We're able to be in spaces where we normally wouldn't be without this program. And honestly, we're just making it the best that we can and hoping for the best come November. So we'll see. We'll see what happens then.
Yes, it's very important to vote, my friends, if you are listening. I know there's a lot of issues with voting and the electoral college and all changes that need to happen. But if you have access to voting, make sure you are exercising that right and that privilege. And I want to put into context what Cesar just shared, like nearly $2,000 every year or every 2 years with the new regulations, going through this process of reapplying on top of maybe working 1 to 2 jobs, on top of navigating first gen college experience, maybe at a PWI, predominantly white institution, or any institution in the US, on top of having this status. That's a lot of different, I don't want to say baggage, like a weight, like different bags with rocks on them on your back that you're navigating as a student and young professional. It's like, let's take a moment and like create that image in our brain, because I think some people forget that that truly affects students' mental health and how they show up in the classroom, how they go to activities on campus, how they navigate their experience with research, with talking to professors that they could connect with to build a community to then apply to grad school, or how that affects them having the opportunity to even get an internship that helps them build their resume. Like, if you're listening, I want you to pause and just really process that and think about that, because I was born in the US, so I hold citizen privilege, right? As if we're talking about an identity and intersections of our identity, I never had to deal with that. I have citizenship. So I can take one bag off my back, and how much lighter I am in comparison to those students. And the resiliency that they build through that, and they're still thriving, right? Cesar is here talking to us about his experience in higher education. There are people working at different corporate companies, others in higher ed. So I just want people to like really think about that and process that, because that's really an important aspect and fabric of our community, our society, the US, the history and the narrative of the United States. So if you're listening, I want you to really process that. I think it's so important to understand the nuance of that lived experience in that day-to-day life, and then reflect on what that citizenship intersection really connects to you in your privilege if you hold that identity. Another thing I wanted to connect about is, how did you find ways to engage on campus as a student, to move forward and thrive, and really pull yourself out of this feeling of wanting to drop out? Because I think that's a very normal feeling, even now with students who are virtually learning and are feeling really disconnected from their classmates, from their university, and from professors. I've read that a lot of students are feeling really, really lonely. So we didn't go, or I personally didn't go through college in a pandemic, so I cannot relate to those types of feelings. And so so I guess a two-part question. One part is, how did you get yourself out of that feeling and become super successful? You're doing your master's right now. And then now as a higher ed professional, how do you connect with your students virtually?
Yeah, so
very nuanced.
That's a good question. But no, I think for me, like I said, whenever I started at the university, not knowing anything, I was just going through the motions. Definitely being involved with the mentorship program helped me a little bit. But I guess it didn't necessarily hit till probably my junior, senior year in college. I guess being in spaces that I was as vice president of the program my senior year, being able to be at conferences and present here and there, going to Boston for a conference and all this stuff. I had that imposter syndrome still. I was not supposed to be there. That's, again, going back to history, or higher education was not created for a Hispanic, undocumented male to be thriving in. It was, again, predominantly white for a white male. So I think I still carry that imposter syndrome because, again, I was in Boston. I was in these conferences. All I was seeing was white folks, females, some Latino males. And that, I mean, it carried a huge weight on me because I was trying to do my best in order to help the students that I was mentoring at the university and continue the program going. But at the same time, that was still in the back of my head, like, we're not supposed to be here. At one point or the other, this program's going to run out of funding. We're going to run out of whatever, and they're going to cut us out and kick us out like they would, because this is not a space where we're normal. It's not normal for us to be in. So I don't know. I think it's just going through all of it helped me realize that we are supposed to be there. Creating mentors at different state institutions, at different conferences. There's a conference in Austin at the University of Austin every August that I go to. It's a men of color conference. So just being surrounded by so many African Americans and Latino males in higher education at this one of the biggest institutions in Texas was huge for me. I think just being able to see that at that level made me kind of understand a little bit more, like, yeah, we are supposed to be here. This is what we're supposed to be doing. Let's continue on and continue giving those resources and continue helping our students. So I think that's honestly what helped me get through wanting to drop out, because, again, there was a lot of stuff that I was going through junior, senior year, but I focused a lot on my mentorship program. I focused a lot on the guys that I was mentoring. And I didn't want to be that guy, that mentor that just left them behind, like I didn't want to drop out and just be like, okay, so you guys go do whatever now, since I'm no longer there. So I continued. I mean, I fought and struggled and like I said, reached out to different people, eventually reached out about my mental health part to deal with those other factors that I was dealing with other than being in school and the imposter syndrome. So honestly, just reaching out to people, just finding somebody that you feel comfortable with, whether it be a staff member, a faculty member, whether it be a student, a fellow student on campus that you're just able to open up with. And they give you a different perspective. I think that's the bigger part of it, just seeing things from a different angle. Because for me, again, I was seeing things as we didn't belong there. But whenever I went to talk to our white or color staff or faculty, they're like, you guys are doing amazing stuff. Like, this is an amazing program for our mentorship or for our minority males and stuff like that. So that changed my perspective a little bit, that we are doing something that's useful, that we are doing something that's going to be helpful and beneficial for more generations to come. That program's on their 7th year, I believe. And I was one of the initial mentees. So my very freshman year, I was one of the inaugural class of mentees in that program, and they're still going. I mean, we got nationally recognized during my senior year because of the work that we were doing. I got to be able to present in different conferences because of that, and I got the ability to go to Boston for being the president of the program and be able to bring this perspective in this type of mentorship program in a predominantly white conference, I guess. Because I was one of the very few Latinos and African American males out there. So that's what helped me just get through it, just having that mentorship and having the guys relying on me. Because my struggles weren't going to be their struggles anymore. Whatever I was going through, I was going to help them so they didn't have to struggle and have to go through that. So I think that's just what kept me going. And for me, I think a lot of it was also that they actually were telling me that was helping them. There were a few conferences that I took my mentee, and without not script or anything, he thanked me and thanked the rest of the mentors in the program for helping him through all the struggles in his first 2 years in college. So that was even more impactful to me because I'm seeing that change. I'm seeing an actual impact that we're having or that I'm having, which automatically just changed my mindset and just told me to keep going. And I did, and I made it to be a professional now at UNC, and I created the same program like that, which is our Line of Dreams. And now, as a staff member, I just make myself available. I think one of the first things that I told the guys whenever I brought them in, I'm like, you know what? Here's my cell phone number. Here's my email. Here's all my contact information. If you need me at whatever time of day, just give me a text, shoot me a message, whatever you guys need to give me a call. I'm there for you guys. Because at first I didn't have that person to go to. I didn't have anybody that told me that I'm here for you. I'm here for you to help you struggle or navigate any struggles. And I think them seeing that there's somebody that cares for them whenever they're here at our institution is just huge. I mean, I try to meet with them once a week via Zoom or whatever. I tell them to come by my office whenever they're on campus. If I'm at the office, just come, say hi, chit chat, whatever. I'm always sending in messages on the GroupMe as well, just trying to check up on them. And then I'll also being a little bit more intentional, creating those one-on-one meetings, going over grades, going over their life on campus, what they're doing and stuff like that. Because I've heard it already. There's like, oh, well, I just stay in my dorm and just go to class online. Or I don't even do anything other than maybe go eat lunch or dinner or whatever at the cafeteria. That's whenever I come in, I'm like, okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to try to go here or come to my office, come to the Multicultural Center. You can do homework there. If not, come to the union, come to these other spaces. Just be out here with different people, different folks that you're seeing. That way you're not just stuck in your dorm. Because I mean, I know working from home, I was stuck at home for a few months, not being able to leave or anything. So I know the struggle. We all know what they're going through now. So honestly, just being intentional and being there and being open to them. I think that's what's made that connection already so soon. I believe our first meeting was like mid-October or mid-August, I'm sorry, was our very first meeting with them. And we've grown together and as a close-knit group because of that, because we all feel comfortable in being vulnerable with each other. And it's created already great rewards. We were highlighted whenever UNT received a Diversity and Inclusion Award. So they included our program that's literally been on campus for a month and a half on that. So just being able to show them that look, guys, you guys are already making an impact. Just keep going. You guys aren't, and the other thing that I tell them whenever we have a polo that says Land Dreams. Whenever you're wearing that polo, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing the university, you're representing your family, you're representing the group. So carry yourself to the standard that people are going to be talking about us in a good way whenever they see that green Land Dreams polo. I want them talking. That's exactly what I want. I want them saying, yes, that I had a Land Dreams guy in my class, not because they're bad or because they're bad influence, but because they're already making an impact at the university with a month and a half that they've been on campus and not even had an opportunity to meet face to face as a group together. So
Mm.
it's huge for them. And I've seen it whenever I tell them these little things that, hey, we're getting recognized by this office, we're getting noticed by this, like their faces just light up. It's awesome. Like I love to see that, and that's why I always tell them whenever we get on Zoom calls, I'm like, y'all better turn y'all's cameras on because I want to see those beautiful faces. They laugh at me and stuff, but hey,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is. Just being there for them, and it's not always going to be serious talk. We can have fun, and I'm going to have fun with them. I mean, they're 2, 3, maybe 4 years younger than me at the most. So we're just there and to talk and me guide them to whatever they have to go through.
Yeah, that's so important to make it fun, and the turning cameras on is so important. I think that builds the community and builds the rapport and the intentionality behind it. There are two things, right, from that conversation about how do you get yourself out of feeling like you need to drop out or you don't belong, right? Like you mentioned, these institutions and these systems were not created for people like us to be in them, right? So if we have a seat at the table, or if we broke down a door to be in there, how do we carry ourselves? How do we represent our people? And I think this is where history comes into place. It's like we have to understand that we are on indigenous land, right? We are on sacred spaces that were taken from the original peoples of this land. So in essence, they really don't belong, right? So why are we feeling imposter syndrome if maybe our ancestors were the first people of this land? So I think imposter syndrome is such an interesting duality because the way colonialism works, right? The way our colonial industrial mindset has trained us to believe that we don't belong, when in fact we really do belong, and we're reclaiming these spaces. So 3 things, right? So 1, how do we navigate imposter syndrome? And this is interesting because after you graduate college, it's not like poof, it disappears. It's not like poof, first generation stops existing. Like you're still a first gen navigating the workforce and imposter syndrome. It's just a whole other level of understanding and navigating. And number 2, mentorship and the importance of having a mentor and really seeking out an intentional relationship and community of people who know what you're going through and can help you through that process. And then number 3 is really knowing who you are and what you want to accomplish in these spaces, right? So, number 4, another thing was the conference experience, right? Having these experiences in college to build your communication skills, your personable skills, your interpersonal skills, is so important. And it goes back to this mindset of we do belong, we do have the skill sets. It's a matter of kind of unearthing that power within us that already exists. And that comes through mentorship, that comes through therapy, that comes through knowing who we are as a community to then have the power to reclaim spaces, I think, is really what we're doing in these institutions and in the world, is we're reclaiming spaces that were really taken.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think for me, you hit it hit the nail on the head. Especially just opening up, it's huge. I never saw myself in higher education. I did psychology and criminal justice for my undergrad. So originally my goal was, like most little kids that end up watching Criminal Minds, become an FBI agent. That was my goal, or a police officer. That's what I grew up with. Once I understood that no, you can't be an FBI agent, you can't be a police officer because you're not a citizen. That again, it hit me hard in college. I'm like, well, then what am I doing here? What am I doing getting a psychology and criminal justice degree if I'm not going to be able to use it? I'm not going to be able to put it to good use in whatever I want to do. But yeah, just the mentorship, being able to be at conferences where I see these guys in higher education, I'm like, that might be a good way to go. And honestly, I didn't even fully get into this field or really grab the grasp that I wanted to be here till I graduated. I I had applied for this position as an admissions counselor in May, which was technically whenever I walked the stage, but I failed the class my senior year, so I didn't end up graduating till August. But the university, Tarleton State University, wanted me, even though I hadn't graduated.
Mm-hmm.
I told them, like, hey, I haven't graduated. I still need a few more months. They're like, oh, no, come over. We'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. You don't need your degree. And yeah, I got there because that was the job that I needed. I mean, they were going to be paying me full time. I was going to be a staff member. So I took it, not even knowing what it was going to entail.
Right.
So I moved to Waco, and that's whenever I started becoming more involved in higher education. And yeah, I mean, 6 months later, I got the opportunity down here at UNT. And that's whenever it hit me. I'm like, okay, this is exactly what I want to do. This is exactly where I want to be. And whenever I got here to UNT, that's why I'm like, all right, if I want to keep going up on the ranks at any university, whether it be here or anywhere else, I need that master's degree.
Right.
In higher education, because of my background. My background's not in education. It's in psychology and criminal justice. So I need to be able to understand everything that's going on in higher education, and I'm still learning. I still have mentors everywhere right now with everything that I've been doing with the little conferences that I've attended, with the positions that I've taken. I have mentors all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I think whenever I came to the university at UNT, what made me get rid of that imposter syndrome, I guess, was coming into a space where my director looks like me. He's a Hispanic male. My other coordinator, the other coordinator in the office, she's a African American female in that space. Most of the people that we work with in the different offices look like us. So coming into that group already, where they had already created like a little family, I guess, at the university, and then they bringing me in along to that, and just making me feel at home was what made me change the imposter syndrome to, yeah, this is where we belong. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going to continue going forward. And the Multicultural Center at UNT has done amazing things already. I know we're working on some cool plans for the future. So it's been great being here with them. And like I said, they just made me feel at home literally from the first day that I was on campus. The student assistants welcomed me amazingly. I was able to have some talks with the students during my interviews and stuff like that. And they wanted somebody, I guess, somebody that looked like them, somebody that had some of those experiences. And we're here now and we're making it. So yeah, I think just being able to feel at home and feel like you belong to something is what's going to help change that imposter syndrome once we get into the workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. Belonging and finding your people in your community. I love the story of this career journey, right? Because you started with a major and an idea of what you wanted, and then life was like, wait, just kidding, this might not work. So how did you pivot? How did you find something else? I think that's something that students don't think about. They're like, oh my God, like I have to do this. This is my dream since I was 5. I mean, if that's your dream, do it, go for it. But if you realize that you don't love it anymore, that's okay to pivot. Yeah. I was also a psych major, and I studied psychology and Spanish with a minor in educational studies, and I wanted originally become a licensed psychiatrist, right? And then throughout the years, I realized, no, that's not where I want to be. That's not the direct intention, one-on-one work that I want to do. And I taught Spanish first and then transitioned to higher ed. But what I loved about working with students is that one-on-one advising portion that's more holistic and not just kind of like a coaching session, right? You're taking them from point A to point B and navigating their life situation in that moment. And that's what part I really liked. So if you're listening to this, and even if you're a young professional and you realize you're in a career spot that you don't like or that you're just not feeling anymore, it's okay to change. It's okay to kind of transition to a new step and try something else. I think is something that we don't really talk about a lot. I think in the larger narrative of higher ed, or students who want to change from like pre-med to like art or something. Like that's a scary transition. if their whole lives they thought they were going to become doctors and then realize they hate organic chemistry and they just like can't do it. So that's
Yep.
okay.
Yep. It's very much okay to change your mind once
Yeah.
you get to it. Because like for me now, I'm putting 17, sometimes even or 12, 14, 15, 16, 17 hours a day because I love it. I don't feel like I'm working whenever
Right.
I'm doing this. I wake up early in the morning because I want to get to the office early, be there, get prepared, get ready for my students, get ready to tackle the day. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't feel that drive, if you don't feel that energy every time you're waking up or every time you're going to work, that's not
Mm-hmm.
where you belong.
Yeah.
And we go back to belonging. I mean, if no matter how much you're getting paid, if it's the best
Right.
job, if you're not happy at the end of the day, you're just making yourself miserable. Like, no matter how much you're getting paid, even if and stuff like that. So do what you love, and if you have to change career paths, there's never a right time to change them. I guess we can always. I mean, you can be into working in higher ed for 10 years,
Yeah.
and that's not where you belong. Change careers. You don't have to be stuck in that rut just because, oh, I've been here so long, or this is what I always wanted to.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and if you have that discernment to say, hey, wait a minute, I want to figure something else out or do something else, I think it's worth exploring that curiosity and that
mhm.
next kind of step, because why not? I mean, who said there's no rule book to say like you have to stay in a job for 50 years until you retire, especially not with millennials and Gen Z. Like they're just not
So,
going to do that. So
no.
I think societal pressures play a big role, or maybe familial pressure. I
Yeah.
don't know everyone's nuanced home life. But I think if you have a yearning deep inside of you to do something else besides what has been prescribed to you or told to you, I hope our stories inspire you to find what it is you truly want to do and love to do and move towards that.
Absolutely.
So, what would you tell your younger self um, about anything? College life, growing up in the US, uh, what would you tell your younger self to kind of navigate the world?
Um, Gosh, that's a really hard question. Um, Honestly, I think I just tell myself to be more open and be willing to be vulnerable. I think that's one of the things that helped me change. Just being more open to criticism and being vulnerable in what I was experiencing and what I was going through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've talked and I've done different talks, and they've asked me, what would you change? I wouldn't change anything, to be honest, because if any of the experiences that I went through and that I experienced wouldn't have put me where I'm at now if I hadn't
Right.
experienced that. But I would be, or I would tell myself to be more open, just to actually talk about it. Don't just retain what you're going through. Be able to find somebody that you can rely on, and just be open, be vulnerable, and just try to help yourself in that way. If you have to struggle through something, don't struggle through it alone.
Mm,
I think that's huge. Not going through whatever the case may be, depression, going through losing a family member or anything like that. Don't go through it alone,
mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, it's just gonna hurt you. And yeah, I think just that's the little advice I would give my younger self.
I love that. Don't change anything because it's led you to where you are right now. So if you're
Hmm.
listening and you feel like, oh, it's about not like uh, I want to say it in Spanish, but uh, like no te machuques, or like don't be so hard on yourself that you made
Hmm.
like maybe a mistake or something, or you failed at something, because actually that failure or that mistake is kind of a detour in the right direction, or a detour to where you need
For
to
sure.
go. And it's about shifting your mindset about what that failure or that mistake might be or might mean. And like you said, don't go at it alone. Don't go at really hard life situations alone. and processing really hard emotions alone, because you don't have to do that. There are resources and there are support systems out there. And I love to be more open and to be vulnerable and open to feedback and criticism and all those things, because if people are doing it from a well-meaning place, that's because they want to see you succeed, and want to see you grow. So I love this chat. We talked from higher ed to mental health to career to what would you tell yourself, your younger self. Are there any last pieces of nuggets or advice or new musings you would like to tell anyone who's listening?
I mean, I guess we could go all day, honestly.
Yeah.
With everything that I've gone through,
Yes.
we could go all day. But now I think that's one of the bigger things. Just be open and be vulnerable. Be willing to change. Because no matter how many mistakes we make, we have to learn from those mistakes. So if we would have never made those mistakes, if we would have changed that, the outcome would have been completely different. And yeah, I mean, be willing to change and just be yourself. Honestly, I think that's huge. And for me, that's what I try to convey now. Whenever I do speak or whenever I do keynote presentation, it's just being open and being willing to learn. And to continue to learn. I mean, we're never going to be perfect. We're never going to be know everything, and just anything that comes your way, deal with it the best way that you can, and don't ever go through it alone.
Yeah, I love that. So if you're listening, make sure you look to who your resources are, look for the support and the people that are going to help you go from point A to point B. Be open, be vulnerable. And stay tuned for a part 2 with Cesar, because we're probably going to do this in Spanish. So you can share this with your parents or your abuelas, abuelos, so they can hear what the lived experience is like, but in Espanol, so they can really, really understand it, because I know my abuela would love to hear what we're talking about, but it has to be in Spanish. So we're going to be mindful and inclusive about that. So make sure you look out for that chat, but in Espanol. So thank you so much, Cesar, for connecting with me today. If you want to chat with him, if you want to connect with him, if any parts of his story really, really resonated with you and you just want more, you want a coffee chat with him, I will drop his LinkedIn and his Facebook and his connection below in the show notes, and on social media. It'll be on my website. It'll be everywhere, wherever you hear podcasts, or it'll be on the YouTube channel as well. So you can find him through any of those channels. And if you can't get in touch with him, let me know and we will make sure you chat. He's a great mentor, a great resource for you, especially Latino men if you're listening. He is someone to really get connected with. So thank you so much, Cesar. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today.
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me. It's been an honor. It's always a pleasure to talk and be able to help our younger students.
Awesome. Until next time. Wow, my friends, we made it to the end of another amazing episode. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something, please make sure that you rate, review, subscribe, and let us know your biggest takeaway from today's episode and commentary on your biggest learning. If you would like more information about the person that I interviewed and the guest, make sure you check out the show notes, where all the information will be there on how to reach them, learn more about their work. And if you would like to work with me, please check out the website www.deliciaalarcon.com/services, and that's where you will learn how we can work together. You can add me on Instagram, Delicia D. Alarcon, where we can chat and connect that way as well. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and cheers to the next one. Again, I'm Delicia, your host for College and Career Coffee Chats, or your resident hype Dia. Until next time, my friends, cheers.